everybody. Welcome to another episode of Off the Shelf. Today we're going to be talking about scary stories to wrap up our spooky season here at the library. So, first up, Shirley Jackson. Initially, when I was putting together our list, I wanted to include either The Haunting of Hill House or We Have Always Lived in the Castle. And then when I searched in the catalog, I discovered that we had both in one place, along with The Lottery and several other stories from her. So if you're not familiar with Shirley Jackson, she is a post-war writer. The Lottery was written in 1947, and then her last one was We Have Always Lived in the Castle, and that was 1962. The post-war period really influences her writing, and her writing is really psychological. I read reviews of all three of these before I did this, just to kind of jog my memory on what they were about and see what other people were saying. And there were definitely some people that were like, I don't understand, especially with The Lottery. They're like, I don't understand. Why do they do that? But what's really great about her is that she plumbs the depths of what humans are willing to go to maintain the status quo. And sometimes really, really horrifying things are done in the name of maintaining the status quo. So having the opportunity to look into people's minds and see what is actually going on there, or maybe to puzzle over their motivations, can be really frightening. And that's where Shirley Jackson shines. So I'm not going to give you information about each specific thing here because, like I said, it does include both of the longer ones, but then there's a bunch of short stories in this. So if you are interested, I highly recommend that you pick up this collection because it gives you a good chance to really read a lot of her stuff. And it's all psychological and creepy. Next up, I've got Coraline by Neil Gaiman, and this one is technically a children's book. I know normally I try to stick with YA and adult books here on Off the Shelf, but in this case I had to include Coraline. Coraline is really a book for all ages, and it's just, they put a children's sticker on it because you gotta house it somewhere. Coraline is about a little girl and her parents who move into a new apartment, and her parents don't have time for her, so she's really, really bored. And she's going around counting the doors and the windows, and there's a door that is locked, and she can't get into this one door. And she goes back one day, and suddenly the door's open, and she can go through it. And everything on the other side of the door is just like her apartment, but a little bit better. And that sounds great. Like, what kid doesn't want to find a door to a better version of their reality? Unfortunately, things are not quite as they seem. Surprise, surprise. And Coraline soon discovers that there are some sinister things going on in the apartment through the door. So she ends up having to save a bunch of children that are trapped on that side, and it'll make you think twice. About doors, about the creepy things that might be on the other side, and about when is better really better. So if you haven't read Coraline or seen the movie, both are great. Definitely put it on your list because this is one that you need to read. Next up is Mallory by Josh Malerman. This is a new one. It just came out this summer, and it is the sequel to Bird Box. So Bird Box, as you may know, was a book and then became a Netflix movie, and that was one of those ones where everybody had seen the movie and they were all doing the blindfold challenge and things like that. That's where that came from, and this is the sequel, which takes place 12 years after Bird Box ends, with Mallory rowing down the river. She and her children are still surviving, and they're still, wearing their blindfolds because the threat seems to have only intensified. And then one day, someone shows up who says he's from the census, and he brings news and a new sense of hope that she didn't think she could have. And so you're left, hopefully, with a greater sense of hope, and not just, this is never ending and things will only get worse and eventually we're all going to go mad. That Bird Box kind of puts you in that place. It's still super creepy and, kind of makes you want to wear a blindfold. But definitely check this out if you've already read Bird Box or seen the movie. You need to kind of know what's going on, I think, in order to get the most out of this. But if you have, come and get Mallory. Next is Horns by Joe Hill. Joe Hill is Stephen King's son, so he's got horror writing in his blood. And he has written several creepy books. The one that you're going to see a lot if you do a Google search is Heart-Shaped Box, which we just did not have a copy available. So I went with Horns. Horns is about Ignatius Perrish, Ig, and he goes out drinking and partying and doing horrible things one night, and when he wakes up the next morning, he's got horns sprouting out of his forehead, and he doesn't know why. And over the course of him trying to figure out what's going on, the reader learns about what has led him to that point in his life. And he had led a really charmed existence and had a great girlfriend, and then his girlfriend is murdered and everyone assumes that he killed her. And no matter what he does, no one believes that he was not her murderer. So that's kind of where he's coming from. And it gets pretty dark and creepy, honestly, by the end of it. And it's also a movie starring Daniel Radcliffe. So if you enjoy the book, definitely go seek out the movie. Both of them they're creepy, but they're also they're not funny. They're not funny, but it's kind of there's a little bit of a dry humor, dry wit to some of it. But I wouldn't call them like comedy horror by any means. If you appreciate that sort of thing, though, Horns is definitely one you should be reading. Another really creepy one is The Other. This is an older one. It's from 1971 by Thomas Tryon. And right off the bat, the reason that The Other is creepy is because it's about kids. It's about a set of twins. And there's nothing scarier than creepy twins, right? There's nothing scarier, like the twins in The Shining. Kids are creepy, twins are even worse. So this is about a set of twins, Holland and Niles, and they, one of them is the sweet, nice one, and one of them is not. And over the course of the book, things kind of go from not bad but not great to really bad, and they get darker and darker until at the end you're left like, whoa, what, like, go into this not expecting anything, and don't read a whole bunch up on it, and you will be freaked out. Okay, you should do it. There is a movie, again, I believe it was made in 1972. I haven't seen the movie, so I can't comment on it, but the book is truly creepy. One that is funny, while also still being creepy, is Horror Store by Grady Hendrix. And this one is a horror parody of IKEA. I know for some people, IKEA is already a horror, but even if you love IKEA, this will freak you out. The really fun thing about this book, though, is the way that it is put together. It's made to look like an IKEA catalog. So the inside covers have information. They've got the map of the store in there. And then every chapter starts off with let's see if I can find one for you. Every chapter starts off with a description of a piece of furniture. and what it's going to bring to your life by bringing this piece of furniture into your home. So basically, the plot of Horror Store is that the store, Orsk, there's something weird going on. And every morning when the employees come in to open the store, they find broken things, they find stuff just out of place. So a handful of employees offer to do an overnight, basically, where they're going to do a paranormal investigation and figure out what's happening. So it's a little bit of ghost hunters in IKEA. It's a lot of fun, and there's definitely something scary happening at the Orsk store. So if that's up your alley, come and get Horror Store. So next up, I've got some vampires for you with The Historian. The Historian is basically a Dracula story. So if you like Dracula and you like history, this is a good one for you. The plot, basically, a young woman is going through her father's library and comes across an ancient book and a collection of old letters addressed to my dear and unfortunate successor. So this sends her down a rabbit hole, and she, in trying to discover what these are and what secrets her father has kept and what happened to her mother, then she finds out more about who sent the letters and the book and the Dracula figure involved in all of it. A lot of people online are comparing this book to the Da Vinci Code. I don't think they're wrong, but I think the Da Vinci Code is a faster paced thriller. This book is more methodical than that, and it's definitely a slower read. It's a little bit denser in terms of information and not story. I mean, Dan Brown packs so much into his stories that you're left like, oh my gosh, really? But this is a slower paced read than the Da Vinci Code. Still, if you like the Da Vinci Code, you like vampires, The Historian is definitely one to check out. Also, vampires of a sort is The Passage by Justin Cronin. Unlike The Historian, though, The Passage vampires are military experiments. I would say gone awry, because anything that causes an apocalypse, I think, has gone awry. I'm hoping that that's not what was intended, but that's what happens here. There is a military experiment that causes a night of chaos and carnage, and in the morning you're left with a post-apocalyptic world. And the group of survivors have to figure out what happened and what they're gonna do. So, if you like post-apocalypse and vampires, The Passage is an awesome one to check out. I've got one more for you, and this is a little bit of local flavor. This is Ghost Stories of the Lehigh Valley. I haven't had a chance to read this one yet, but we have multiple copies, so if you haven't read it either, let's all read it, because what is more fun than ghost stories that you can say, oh my gosh, I know exactly where they're talking about, right? So come and check out Ghost Stories of the Lehigh Valley, and let's be scared about all the places that we go every day together. That's all I've got for you today. Hopefully some of those were new titles for you. Something sparks your imagination and makes you want to come down and check it out from the library. If there's a book that you feel like I missed or an author, definitely leave it in the comments. As usual, I try to pick things that aren't, the very first thing that comes to mind when you say scary stories, but I would love to hear what your favorite scary stories and horror authors are, so please let me know. If you're looking for more recommendations, go to our website, eastonpl.org, fill out a personalized recommendation request form for us, and we will send you a list of things that we think you'll enjoy. That's all for today, so stick around for our next video, which will be coming soon. Enjoy the rest of your spooky season, and we'll see you next time.